Welcome to the Sincerely God podcast. I'm Sarah, and I believe that God is speaking to all of us all the time and in many different ways. For me, the primary way that I listen is through two-way journaling. And in this podcast, I share excerpts from my prior journaling time with God, which are really inspirational messages spoken from the perspective of God to you. I'll share more about what two-way journaling is and explore other methods that might be helpful for you to listen to God in your own unique way. I'm just an ordinary person who gets to hear from an extraordinary God, and I believe you can too. Thanks for joining me. So the journaling I'm going to share today, God is actually talking to me about peace. This is what he said. Good morning, my child. Did you sleep peacefully? Did you wake with ease? Now go through your day with the same peace and ease. Go through your day without worry or concern. This is my way for you. Do not stress or strive. Do not be so concerned about the worries of this world or the things that will not last. Let your mind be consumed with my ways, ever focused on my thoughts. Yes, my child, my ways are best. My thoughts are purest. Follow my ways and meditate on my thoughts. This will keep you in a position of peace and wellness. This will keep you in my perfect plan. Yes, my child, trust my plans. Trust my ways. My ways are best and for your best. My ways are good and true. They have been tested and proven. The ways of this world are destructive and lead you down a path of your own making. This is not my will for you, my child. I desire you to be free and secure, full of life and love, peace and joy. Yes, my child, be filled with my love. Be filled to overflowing. Let my love flow freely in and through you. Let my love be your driving force, the core of who you are. Let my love be the guiding light by which you see your path and way forward. Let my love be all you need. Truly, it is all you will ever need. I am all you will ever need. Let my love fill you and make you whole. Let my love complete its work in you. Yes, my child, I am completing my work in you. Receive all of my love, all of me into your being. Remove what doesn't belong. Let go of what doesn't serve you or my purposes. Yes, my child, let go. Begin by letting go of the small things, but then move on to bigger and more difficult ones. Too much has its grip on you still. Too much still claims your attention and efforts. Let go, my child. Let go and see me transform. So in this word, there's so much about peace and what is needed in order to get towards that peace. This has been a path that I've been following for a while of really trying to take steps to let go, to not worry so much, and to be able to kind of live in a way of peace. I know I still have more of this process to go, but there is so much just in this word in itself of guiding me along that path, and I believe guiding you as well. He says, do not be so concerned about the worries of this world or the things that will not last. I think so often we can get caught up in the day-to-day worries of what about this, what about that, what if this happens, what if that happens, or even just the worries in a sense of the busyness, the to-dos, the things that kind of just can fill our time, even though they're not really something that lasts. And if we can take a step back, if we can intentionally set our mind on the bigger picture to see, if this particular goal doesn't get met, if this particular person doesn't respond in the way that we desire, whatever it may be, a lot of times the things that are consuming our thoughts and giving us stress are actually not things that are going to last. They're not things that in many cases are even going to have an impact on us in the next month or year, let alone, our lifetime. And so even just taking that step back to try to have a broader perspective. I mean, I think there is so much importance about that mindfulness of being in a moment, and a piece of that, of being able to get into that appreciation of the current moment at hand, is to stop worrying so much about certain things. And one aspect or one method of reducing that worry is to be able to take that kind of broader perspective to see this thing that is consuming my mind right now. Is this going to last? Is this something that is worth this amount of effort and energy? And so if we let our mind be consumed with God's ways, with God's thoughts. God exists outside of time. By his nature, he sees that broader perspective and knows what will last and what will not. And so if we can take intentional steps to allow our thoughts and our focus to be on what's important to God, that will help us reevaluate and reprioritize what is consuming our thoughts in our day-to-day. And then he also says, trust my plans, trust my ways. My ways are best and for your best. My ways are good and true. Trust, trust, wow. Trust is such a key to peace. Trust in something bigger. Trust in something that is beyond. I think when we try to control and we believe this falsehood that this life is actually in our hands and in our control, that leads to so much stress, that leads to so much striving, and really fear and heartache and things that don't live up to our expectations. And then we put that weight upon ourselves thinking that we had something to do with it, when really there's so much in this life that is beyond our control. And if we have the ability, I'm not saying this is easy, I'm not saying that it can happen overnight, but if we can cultivate an ability to put our trust in God, an ability to put our trust in a higher power, a greater way of things, that there is good overarching in this world, then that takes so much of that pressure off of ourselves. And I can speak from my own life experiences that if I can put my trust in God, if I can put my trust beyond myself, the peace that I'm able to live in is transformational. It makes my life so much better. And just, it's a completely different way of living. And I'm not saying I do it perfectly. I still try to grab and to hold and to pull things into my own control and all of that. But I intentionally put my trust in God. I intentionally put my trust in a goodness that is beyond my own. And it really does transform the way I move through this life. And the peace that comes is completely worth it. And when I say trust, like, there are hard things that happen in this life. When we put our trust in God, that doesn't mean that we're not going to have any hard things happen. That isn't promised in the Bible. And you mean just look around, that's not reality. But if we can trust that somehow, some way, things will be okay. If we can trust that we'll make it through, that there will be a greater help to carry us through things that we can't walk through on our own. I think a good example that I can think of in my own life from many years ago. So I went through a divorce about 10 years ago, and it was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to walk through in my life. And there was a moment in time that I felt what this trust can mean in terms of actual peace. So I was in a different place as far as my understanding, my connection, my ability to hear and receive directly from God. And I was in a very difficult place of not knowing. It was kind of as my marriage was falling apart, but didn't know whether we were going to make it through and stay together or if it was going to end in divorce. And I had found out some pretty hard things the day before and was just in this state of distress and I was just basically crying nonstop, not knowing what to do. And I had a transformation that occurred from one day to the next. And the best way I can describe it is just that I had this peace. But the way that I can describe that peace is I still didn't know what was going to happen. I still didn't know if my marriage was going to work through the problem or if I was going to divorce. And, so much that goes along with that of the unknown and the difficulty. But I didn't know what was going to happen in that moment. But I had this shift inside of me that I knew I was going to be okay. I knew that regardless of which way things happened, I knew that I would be okay. And that was transformational. I mean, I still had a lot of hard days after that. It wasn't like it made everything okay, but having that knowing like inside of me that I'll get through this, I'll be okay, life will somehow go on, that brought a peace. And where did that come from? That came in trust. That came in trust that it could be better, that there was someone at work beyond my own ability to control, because at that point it was absolutely out of my control. And this trust, to be able to trust in God and trust that no matter how hard it got, that He would help me through it, that gave me a peace that allowed me to basically survive the most difficult time of my life. And I've had, obviously other aspects of that as my life has continued in different things that, again, being able to trust, me leaving my career into unknown, again, trust. And in that trust of it will be okay, things will work out in some way, not that they'll be perfect, but like I will make it through and I will be okay and I will have peace and joy and love in my life and all of that. To be able to trust that, it gives you peace in the moment. It gives you peace of whatever it is that you're facing. And yes, it's still hard. And yes, you'll still feel all of the emotions of sadness and hurt and all those things. But that knowing inside brings a peace that I think makes all the difference. The other things he talks about in this word is to let His love flow freely in and through you, and let that love be our driving force, the core of who we are, and the guiding light, the path and way forward. Let love be all that we need. And I think that is another way to find that peace in our day-to-day, is let love be your guide. Let love be your driving force. Even if you don't believe in God, it's hard to deny that love is not the way, that love is not truly all that matters. And love comes in many forms. Love doesn't mean, yes, romantic love is a form of love, but love is the goodness in this life. Love is the goodness in the world. Love is the driving force for anything good and pure and lovely and positive. And if we can allow love to be our guide, so when we're facing a situation and we don't maybe know how to respond to it, what does love say? What is a love inside of you say? And that could be, how do you respond in love to another person? But it could also be, how do you respond in love to yourself? What is the loving response to yourself? And sometimes that can be, allow yourself space, allow yourself to feel the emotions and the truth of what that situation may be. Give yourself grace and an allowance to maybe not be okay in a moment, to go through the pains of a hard situation, and to, however you can, hold yourself in that moment. And I think oftentimes we forget that. I mean, it's not this like selfishness of have all disregard for the people around you or respond out of spite or even defensiveness or whatever. Like, no, that's not love. But in loving others and loving the world around us, I think so often that needs to start with loving ourselves first. Because if we aren't creating a safe space within ourselves to meet some of our core needs, to care for ourselves, then we don't have a healthiness. We don't have an ability to truly love others, because you can't love authentically if you're not authentic with yourself. I'd say, I don't know if it's just me, but I know it's not just me, because I have friends. I live in this world. I see it every day, that so often when people are responding in a hurtful way, it's because they're not giving themselves love. And that could be, giving ourselves love in the day-to-day and building a rhythm of our own life that gives space for our own needs, our own care for ourselves, so that we are in a healthy state, we are in a loving state. So then when the hard thing happens, when the person does something to you, whatever it may be, you're not responding out of brokenness. You're not responding out of a lack of health, in who you are, that you have love in you in order to respond in love. So I do think that every day, every decision, whether it's an internal decision, whether it's what thought path are you allowing your mind to follow, to external decisions of how to treat others, or even big decisions of what do I do with my career or my family or whatever it may be, stop and let love be your guide. But let love in its purest form be your guide, not a selfless, self-hurting kind of love where you completely disregard who you are and don't act in an authentic way to yourself, that you're just deferring to whatever everybody else seems to need around you. I mean pure love, which is authentic, which requires you to actually be authentic with yourself and to consider what is a loving response for yourself. But let love be your guide. Let love be your driving force in all you do every day. And that's going to help you make those decisions that will create peace in your life. So there's so much more here, but I think those are a couple key things. I think that our life can be dramatically different if we are intentionally going after peace, prioritizing peace. And how do we do that? Number one, by trusting God, by trusting good, by trusting that there is someone or a force that is beyond your control that is actually good. And secondly, by letting love be your guide and your driving force. So I encourage you, maybe take some steps in both of those directions. What's maybe something that you can do today to reconsider what is filling your thoughts? What is taking your energy right now? Is it thoughts towards worry? Is it thoughts towards stress and trying to carry things on your own? Is it driven by fear or is it driven by love? I think fear and love are opposites. And so if you find yourself in a situation that if you were to kind of peel back the layers and what is really underneath is a form of fear, because worry is just a form of fear. If what's underneath is fear, how can you take a step towards love instead? And maybe that is loving yourself and making a decision for yourself that is based in love and not in fear. So I just encourage you in that. Trust, let love be your guide, and I think you'll start to experience more peace in your everyday life. Thanks for tuning in to the Sincerely God podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends. If you'd like more information, you can go to my website, sincerelygodquotes.com. There you'll find links to my social media, as well as an ability to get your own copy of Sincerely God, a collection of quotes, either the book or the prayer journal. Until next time, keep listening to how God is speaking to you.
It's all inside you, waiting to be